and welcome back to Jimbo's PC Builds. Today we're going to have a look at two keyboards. So I use a Mac every day for work, so I have basically been having a look for keyboards that I want to use with my Mac, because as I have the unfortunate Mac Pro for work that has the butterfly keyboard, which is terrible to type on. So previously I've been using a keyboard, and recently I bought another one. So today I'm going to do a head-to-head between those two keyboards. So without further ado, let's have a look at the two keyboards that we're going to do a head-to-head today. The first keyboard we're going to look at is the Keycron K6. This was the first keyboard that I bought to work with my Mac, and I've been using it for some time. So I'll be able to give you a really good rundown of this keyboard. The keyboard I've recently purchased is, this is the inland brand. It's like the Micro Center in-house brand. I didn't know they did keyboards until I went into my local Micro Center just a few weeks ago. And this is the MK Pro 67K in walnut. And I'll show you when I bring the keyboards up to look at them why it's called walnut. Alright, so without further ado, let's bring the keyboards up and have a good look at them. This is the Keycron K6. And this is the Inland MK67K. So they're both compact keyboards. I'm not going to be concentrating on the switches today because they're both different types of switches. So I don't want to make the actual switch focus. I'm going to focus today purely on how well they work with Mac and also the build quality. So let's first of all have a look at the K6. This is the K6. It's got normal normal keycaps on. The switches I've got on these are browns, so it's a pretty good typing experience. It has two size feet on it, so you can go for two sizes underneath. It's got a good metal base, and the build quality is great. There's no flex in it whatsoever, so it's very, very, very solid. Now if we look at the 67K, these have actually got thin and the low profile keycaps, which is a bit different. These have got Keychron switches in, so they're a bit louder, as you can probably tell. This is the K6, that's how loud they are, where there's no sound. These, the Keychrons, are a lot louder. One of the key differences between the two is that this is the reason it's called walnut, because it's got a walnut effect. It's still metal, but there's also, you'll notice there's no way to raise the keyboard, so there's no height adjustment on this keyboard. But again, it's a metal base and there's no flex in the keyboard whatsoever. The build quality is amazing. And it's worth mentioning that the price of these is, this is around $100, this is around $80, so this is slightly cheaper than this one. So I've been using both in work. I've been using this one for the last few weeks. I've obviously been using the K6 previously. So of the two keyboards, I would say that the 67K is very attractive. The typing experience is decent. The interactivity with Mac, I've had some issues with the command key where it's not coming through fully. As with the same with the K6, you've got a switch where you can, on this one, you can go for cable mode, you can go for Bluetooth, or you can go for a wireless dongle. And on the second switch, you can switch between Mac and Windows. On the K6, very similar. You can connect via a keyboard. You can say whether you want to go keyboard, wireless, or Bluetooth. And again, you can flip between Windows and Mac. One of the key differences I'd say between the actual keycaps as well is, it's one set of keycaps for this keyboard for both Windows and Mac. You've got actually written on whether it's Command or Alt or Windows or Alt Opt, which is basically the differences between Mac keyboards. On the K6, you actually get extra keys, so you can flip the keys between Windows keys and Mac keys. To be perfectly honest, I don't really think that's any different. One good thing about this is it feels like a Mac keyboard. Now, I don't know if you notice the other thing about this, right? They're both on flat. There's no height adjustment with the feet on the K6, and you can already see that there's a slant on the K6. On the inline keyboard, it's flat. So if you enjoy typing a much flatter, so if I turn these around, so I'll be typing normally. This one is a lot flatter and hugs the desk. This one is actually higher. So really for me, the reason I think you need the feet in this one is to make it much better of a typing experience. You need to raise it, otherwise it just doesn't feel, you feel like you're reaching with the hands, because the height difference means you're having to go higher. So this naturally makes you want to raise your wrists. When you put the feet up, you can actually type a lot better with your wrists on the desk. For this keyboard, you don't have any of those worries because it's so flattened to the desk. It's much more compact. The other advantage I would say from the Micro Center keyboard is with it being so flat and compact, it's easier to transport, because obviously it's the size of it is less. If you look at the width of the two, you can see that the Micro Center keyboard is a lot lower, a lot more compact, and I think it's easier to transport to the back. Weight-wise, they're about the same. So when you put them in your bag, in your laptop bag to transport them, there's not really much difference. Lighting-wise, the lighting on the Keycron keyboard, it's barely visible. If I turn it to the side, I can just about see it. You probably can't see it. The keycaps are solid, so the lighting doesn't really do very much because you can't really see it. The lighting on the Micro Center keyboard is better. They've actually got, the keycaps aren't solid, so the light does spill through the actual the letters on the keyboards. So they do actually make a difference. So say if you're in a dim environment and you want to set the color to white, you will actually get a benefit from having lighting on this keyboard, whereas on the Keychron you won't. Cable wise for the Keychron, it's braided, it's a nice feel, but as you can see, it really does retain kinks. I use these keyboards in the office and I transport them to work, and as you can see with this cable, it really retains the kinks. The cable for the Micro Center keyboard is actually very similar. It's braided. I don't think the braid feels as nice as the one from the Keychron keyboard, but again, because it's a very similar cable, it does retain the kinks. By the way, both cables for both keyboards are USB-C to USB-A, so yeah, they're not completely USB-C, which would have been handy, but especially when using with a Mac, as I say, a lot of the later Macs only really have USB-C ports, so I have to use an adapter for plugging this into a Mac. So what would be my conclusion between these two keyboards? I think they're about the same. I actually prefer the typing experience on this keyboard because the being flatter, and also the switches, I didn't say compare the switches, but the switches on this are far better. The only thing I would say is that if you're in a meeting with the noise of these keys, not great. The K6, there's not really much noise to them, so you've got better off from that point of view. But my personal preference between the two, I would have to say I'd go for the Micro Center keyboard. It just types better for me. The whole ergonomics of the keyboard, with it being lower, is easier on the wrists, and you don't have that problem. Alright, I hope you found that helpful. If you like this video, please toss a like on it. If you've got any questions about either keyboard, then please leave that in the comments down below. If you've got any other suggestions for keyboards to compare to these two for using with a Mac, then leave those comments down below. If you want to subscribe, that'd be most welcome. If you do want to subscribe, I do try and do peripheral videos as often as I can, not as often as, say, my cooler videos. But if you hit the bell notifications, you'll be let know when I release content like that. And as always, take care.